Hey everybody, and welcome to Good Enough Engineering. This is a new channel, and the focus really is making stuff just good enough. Doesn't have to be perfect, just has to get the job done. Now, I'm going to be focusing on a lot of different things, but for now, the big project is what's called a hard side rooftop tent. I don't know if you guys have seen that. I'm assuming if you clicked on this, you have. But I first wanted to get a rooftop tent because I had gone mountain biking, and I drove a couple hours to get there to one of those lift service mountain bike hills. And you only get a couple hours in and you're beat. At least I was. My legs were fried. It was the end of the day, but I was like, tomorrow I could do this again if I could just save myself a drive. And that's when I started looking at rooftop tents, realizing the utility, but also they're expensive. And then I came across this the Red Tail Overland, the hard side. And at the time, it was really the first one that was taking up that space of being kind of like a camper thing on the roof of your car, where everything's quiet and insulated, and I really liked that. Just something about it. It's kind of like a space pod. I don't know why I like it so much, but it's just one of those things that I keep thinking about. I kept thinking about it, and in my experience, if I don't pursue things like that I just can't get out of my head and build them, I usually regret it, or it just makes me sad. So this channel is going to help me finish projects like that. So as far as the Red Tail Overland goes, it's really cool. Top of the line, carbon fiber. It's got everything included. It's got batteries. It's got solar panels. It's got heater. But it costs, 10 to 30K, depending on what options you get. So for me, you're going to see a theme throughout this channel is that I'm always trying to make things cheap or attainable. I'm basically a poor kid that couldn't have, A, B, and C because he was poor, so he always tried to build it. I'm the same guy. So that's kind of a theme, a common theme you're going to see. So a lot of these rooftop tents, there's the Alumaloft. That's another one that's big. There are a couple of them, these hard-sided rooftop tents. And I like them, but the thing that always bothered me is that they're wedge-shaped. You see these big photos out that giant window on the backside, and you can see all the views. But think about the person sitting in there. They're just kind of like sitting cross-legged in the middle of a box because they can't be leaning on the back wall. They can't be laying down because where would their head go? They're wedge. It's kind of like Harry Potter sleeping under the stairs. Like, the more you think about it, what that actually looks like. So I kind of set out to reinvent it. I wanted to build one, but I wanted to do it different. So I went through a lot of different iterations, looked at a lot of different things, and I kind of started from a brainstorming point of view. Once upon a time, in engineering school, they taught us, to really start with a pie-in-the-sky view of things. Like, oh, what could work? Let's just brainstorm concepts before you really commit to something. And I really enjoy that. It's kind of my favorite part of engineering and product development, is just starting right there. So I started looking at origami. I looked at lots of videos on how to do origami, and I was like, wow, maybe I'll just learn this as kind of a side quest. And so I started with, like the origami box, the balloon, you can blow it up. And ultimately I was too dumb or not patient enough. And so I moved on to, okay, let's just look at things that fold. And so I, one that I spent a little time looking at was the folding stools. Those stools, you can buy them for pretty cheap. They're all plastic, and they hold a decent amount of weight. But I played with the idea of making a version of that would kind of flatten and like slide over and fall down or something like that to fold flat on top of your roof. And the more I thought about it, it was just another inefficient use of space, so I moved away from that. Then I went back to origami, and I was like, okay, there's got to be a way to fold paper that is gonna, do what I need it to do. And I found this kind of half box origami thing. I'm not really sure I could get it to fold upright. But then you're still looking at slides on top of a platform type thing to get that base to slide. And I wasn't really in love with the idea. So I moved. I kept brainstorming, and ultimately what it came down to was, how do you make a box collapse? I made paper boxes and things and smushed them to see if there was any theme. But I mean, anybody who recycles, you've taken boxes out there and you've got to break down the ends, and then the whole thing just kind of flattens out. You can even fold it in half. So really what it turned into is, so that this thing doesn't have to get damaged to fold up, is just to give everything space. You shorten up two of the sides so that it can fold into itself, and then once you set up the ends, just kind of like they do on all the other hardside campers in the whole world, they just kind of fold up or fold down. The whole thing, it's rigid enough, basically. The whole thing keeps itself up once you put those ends in. So that's what I started iterating on. And at first I started, in CAD world, where you can do whatever you want, and the real challenge was getting things to seal in an open position and in a closed position. And so I made everything like, I'll make this 30 degrees and that 30 degrees, and it'll meet parallel when you fold it open, and everything will seal just perfectly. And then I tried making a thing or two, and then I realized that everything that I have is not straight and not shaped how I think it should be, So I got out of CAD world and started to make it a little more real world. And so that's kind of how we got to the point we're at. I also briefly looked at a large platform version where the whole thing folds open, and it's kind of two versions of the lopsided box, and so you have a ton of room to play with up there. I mean, one day maybe, but I decided just to keep it simple and go with the single side slanted box. So the next thing to think about is materials. What am I making it out of? It has to be inexpensive. That's king, and again, that's the theme, being able to afford it. Not going to spend thousands of dollars on it. That's ridiculous. So I could have done it out of aluminum, and maybe looking back, that would have saved me a lot of trouble. But I made all of my framing out of wood. Wood is cheap. Wood insulates. Wood, you can screw into it, you can chop it in half, and then you can just glue it back together. Fill in all the holes and start over. So wood is really forgiving, but also it warps and it moves. So that's a thing to think about. Cost good, might cause you trouble down the line. So I based it out of wood, and I tried to keep things, I tried to get woods that don't warp really bad, like cedar and redwood. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not a wood expert or anything. But that's what I tried to go with, just to keep warpage manageable. And then as far as overall, it's just a bunch of panels, right? So they're really all sandwich structures. If you're familiar with composites, or if you heard of a sandwich structure, essentially it's a laminate on top and a laminate on bottom with something in the middle that weighs much less. But because they're separated like that, it gives it a lot more rigidity. It's I'm way oversimplifying this, but that's what it is. It's a sandwich structure. But anyways, I played with a lot of different materials here, and again, it was seeing what I can get away with cost-wise. I avoided vacuum bagging, not because it's impossible, not because it costs a ton, but because I kind of want other people to be able to do this. If somebody else wants to follow along and make one just like it, I don't expect them to be vacuum bagging anything. It's just it's complicated, it's annoying, and most people don't want to do it. I don't really want to do it. So I played with not carbon fiber. That's out of the question. I played with fiberglass and epoxy, wet layup. That's at least attainable. Still kind of pricey. Think about your marine grade materials. So I played with that. This whole thing was kind of an experiment, like a materials experiment, because different portions of it are made out of different things. And what'll be kind of fun is that it's been sitting on my roof in the weather and in the elements for about 9 months. And one of these videos, we're going to go over how all these different material systems worked. So if you decide to do this, you can make an educated decision. Or maybe not this. Maybe you're building like a teardrop camper. There are lots of those floating around. So yeah, marine grade epoxy and fiberglass. And then I also played with cheap epoxy. So like your Epoxy It 80 stuff. It's really for pouring, but I gave that a shot to see how it would do. And I used drop cloth, like from your hardware store. So pretty cheap materials. I also used, you may have heard this term floating around on the internet somewhere, poor man's fiberglass. It's basically where they take drop cloth, and then they take literal wood glue and use that as their bonder. So I gave that a shot just to see how it would do. Now, yeah, you'll get to see how it did. But I even did, yeah, that's about all I did as far as the laminate on the outsides goes. But for the middle of that sandwich structure, I mainly used polystyrene foam board, just like at your hardware store. The pink stuff with the pink panther on it. That's what I used. It's as far as like what a sandwich structure core needs to be, like, it's not very good. It's pretty squishy. It doesn't have great compression strength, but it's good enough. And that's the whole point of this channel, just being good enough to do the job, attainable. So another thing that I did try was as a core material, and again, both of them were built into it, so you get to see how it goes, was it's honeycomb. It's called paper honeycomb. I think it has a couple names. It's made out of craft paper, just like cardboard, but it's like a honeycomb type structure, and it is good in compression and it is very light, but it's also paper. So using it with an epoxy, that epoxy is going to kind of impregnate that paper and make it a little more waterproof and give it more stiffness. So that's something that I played with, and that actually went pretty well. The only trouble with that stuff is that it's not as easy to get your hands on as that pink foam board. You know, if you just walk to the hardware store, you can pick up as much of that as you want. But this stuff, you have to scavenge it or special order a pallet of it. I couldn't really find a good source that was just one like piece. So something to think about. Honestly, I preferred it over the pink stuff. So that's about it. I mean, you'll get to see the build. I will make detailed videos as much as I can. I'm not a great editor, or this YouTube thing is new to me. So we'll go, but I intend to keep going. I've got a bunch of projects. I've been thinking of this for a long time, a weirdly long time. So I think it'll be fun. I'm gonna get a lot of different ideas that I've tried, you know, actually finished. So this is gonna help me, and I hope it helps you guys. So tune in if you want to see more. Like and subscribe, all that stuff that they always say. Thanks a lot.